a restaurant manager humiliates and kicks Will Smith out, he has no clue that his actions will come back to haunt him in the worst way possible. What started as humiliation quickly turned into triumph. Find out how this shocking confrontation unfolded and what happened next. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a new story, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The Los Angeles sun hung low in the sky, painting the streets in a golden glow. Will Smith leaned back in the driver's seat of his sleek black SUV, a satisfied smile creeping onto his lips. The past few months had been a blur of film shoots, late-night meetings, and endless press tours, but tonight, he was just Will, no cameras, no scripts, just good vibes and great company. His phone buzzed. A message from Tina. "We're at the studio, heading to the spot. Can't wait." Will chuckled. Tina, soulful voice, fierce activism, and one of the realest people in his life. She was more than just a friend, she was family. Tonight wasn't just about unwinding. It was about appreciation. Letting the people who had his back know how much they meant to him. In the back seat, Jaden scrolled through his playlist. "You sure about this restaurant, Pops? I heard it's kinda stiff." Will caught his son's skeptical look in the rearview mirror and smirked. "Trust me, Jay. Eminence Dining is the spot. Upscale, but chill, perfect for the crew." Jaden shrugged. "If you say so." Pulling up to the studio, the rest of the group was already waiting. Tina stood by the curb in a flowing crimson dress, her curls bouncing as she laughed. Next to her, Jason, the ever-passionate activist, was deep in conversation with Lyric, a rising indie filmmaker making waves in Hollywood. Finally, Tina threw her arms around Will in a warm hug. Traffic, Will gestured to the bustling streets, grinning. "But hey, it's my party. Can't start without me." Jason smirked. "Technically, it's our party. You're just the guy paying the bill." The group burst into laughter, and for a moment, Will just soaked it all in. These weren't just friends, they were his people. The ones who'd been there through the highs and lows, the wins and the setbacks. As they piled into the SUV, talk shifted to the restaurant. Eminence Dining had a rep exclusive. High-end. A place where power players closed deals over 5-course meals. Will had been there before, always enjoyed the quiet luxury, the seamless service. This place really that fancy? Lyric adjusted his tie. "Feels like I should have rented a tux." Tina rolled her eyes. "Relax. It's just dinner. Besides, we're with Will. They'll roll out the red carpet." Will chuckled but said nothing. He just wanted his friends to enjoy the night, to experience the finer things without the usual industry pressures. No business, no politics. Just good food, good company, and a rare chance to breathe. As the SUV glided through Beverly Hills, palm trees lined the streets, luxury mansions standing like silent sentinels. The city felt different here, smoother, more polished. The air carried the scent of blooming jasmine, the streetlights casting a golden shimmer on the sidewalks. Eminence Dining stood at the corner, its minimalist facade exuding quiet sophistication. A valet stepped up, opening Will's door as the group climbed out. Excitement flickered between them as they approached the entrance. Inside, the restaurant was a symphony of luxury, crystal chandeliers glowing softly above polished mahogany tables, the quiet hum of conversation blending with the occasional clink of fine crystal. The waitstaff, dressed in tailored uniforms, moved with an effortless grace, their smiles warm, their service impeccable. Will approached the hostess stand, confident as ever. "Reservation for Smith, party of 6. The hostess, a young woman with sharp features and a sleek ponytail, glanced at the screen. Her expression faltered for a split second before she straightened. "One moment, sir." Jason leaned in. "That felt weird." Lyric nodded. "Yeah, you noticed that too?" Will waved it off. "Relax. Probably just double-checking. These places run tight schedules." Minutes ticked by. Then the hostess returned, her tone colder than before. "I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, but there seems to be an issue with your reservation. We don't have a table available." Will frowned. "That's impossible. I confirmed this morning." The hostess avoided his gaze. "Unfortunately, we're fully booked. I apologize for the inconvenience." Tina crossed her arms, her voice sharp. "You're telling me this entire place is packed? We literally just walked past 3 open tables." The hostess's smile tightened. "Those are reserved for other guests." Will's patience was wearing thin. And something told him this wasn't just about a reservation mix-up. "Look, we're not trying to cause a scene, just check again. We've had this planned for weeks." Before the hostess could respond, a man in a sharp-tailored suit emerged from the back. His presence was commanding, but his eyes held something colder, irritation. "Is there a problem here?" Will turned to him, his expression unreadable. "Apparently, our reservation doesn't exist anymore. Mind explaining how that happened?" The man's smile was calculated, practiced. "Mr. Smith, I apologize for the confusion, but we must adhere to our reservation policy. Tonight, we are at full capacity." The group exchanged incredulous glances. Jason stepped forward. "You're kidding, right? This is Will Smith. You're seriously turning him away?" The manager's tone sharpened. "We treat all our guests equally here. If you don't have a reservation, we cannot accommodate you." Will's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of the moment, the murmurs of other diners, the subtle glances from tables nearby. He had been in the public eye long enough to recognize what was happening. This wasn't just about a booking error. It was something deeper. Something uglier. He took a slow breath. Then, in a voice steady but firm, he said, "Let's go." Jason hesitated. "Will." I said, "Let's go." The celebratory energy that had filled the night evaporated. Without another word, they turned and walked out. Outside, the air felt colder, the streetlights casting harsh shadows against the pavement. Will inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. He had faced countless challenges in his life, but this felt personal. It wasn't just about him. It was about what he represented. As they drove away, the tension inside the SUV was suffocating. Lyric stared out the window, his hands clenched into fists. Tina, usually the life of the party, sat stiff, quiet, her energy replaced by something heavier, indignation. Jason, however, couldn't hold back. He leaned forward, his voice laced with frustration. "That wasn't just about a reservation," he said. "You all felt it, didn't you? The way they looked at us?" Will kept his hands on the wheel, his jaw tightening. He didn't answer. He wasn't ready to voice what was churning inside him, the humiliation, the anger, the sickening clarity of an all-too-familiar reality. "Man, this is Will Smith," Jason continued, his voice rising. "You've been in their movies, filled their theaters, probably helped pay for that damn chandelier, and they still treated you like." "Enough." Will's voice was low, but sharp. Jason clamped his mouth shut, but the fire in his eyes remained. In the back, Jaden, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. It wasn't just about Dad. His voice was quiet, but firm. "They treated all of us like we didn't belong. Like we weren't good enough." The words lingered, heavy and undeniable. Will gripped the wheel tighter, his knuckles whitening. No matter how much success, no matter how much influence, tonight had been a reminder. A reminder that in some places, in some minds, none of that mattered. When they reached Tina's place, she hesitated before getting out. Turning to Will, she searched his face. "You can't let this go." For the first time since leaving the restaurant, Will allowed the faintest flicker of a smile. "I won't," he said. "But I need to think." Tina nodded, squeezing his hand briefly before stepping out. One by one, the group dispersed, leaving Will and Jaden alone in the car. Jaden hesitated. "You okay, Dad?" Will exhaled slowly, leaning his head back against the seat. I'm fine, Jay. Just tired. But as they pulled into the driveway, he knew that wasn't the full truth. He wasn't just tired. He was angry. Angry at the restaurant. Angry at the system that allowed places like Eminence Dining to thrive. And, if he was being honest, angry at himself for walking away without saying more. Inside the house, silence pressed in around him. Jaden retreated to his room, leaving Will alone in the dim glow of the living room. His phone buzzed. A flood of messages. Tina had already posted about the incident, her words passionate, unfiltered. Jason followed, his post a fiery call for accountability. Even Lyric, usually the quiet one, had shared a photo of the restaurant with a caption that hit like a punch to the gut. Not for everyone. Will stared at the screen, his fingers hovering. He could feel the weight of his platform. The millions of eyes that would be on him if he spoke. The consequences, the conversations it would ignite. But he also knew that staying silent would eat away at him. Finally, he opened the camera app and hit record. Sitting on the edge of the couch, he looked directly into the lens. His voice was calm, but tinged with something raw. Tonight, something happened that I can't ignore. He let the words settle. My friends and I went to a restaurant. A place I've been to before. A place I thought respected me. Respected us. But tonight, we were turned away. Not because there wasn't space. Not because they couldn't accommodate us. But because of who we are. He exhaled, his gaze unwavering. I've faced a lot in my life. I've worked hard to be where I am. To open doors, to create opportunities for others. To be a part of something bigger than myself. But moments like this? He shook his head. They remind me that we still have work to do. He paused. Then, with quiet conviction, he added, and trust me, we will. With that, he ended the recording, staring at the screen for only a moment before hitting post. Moments like this remind me that no matter how far we've come, there's still so much further to go. Will ended the video with a simple, powerful statement. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. And it's time for things to change. He hit upload. Almost instantly, the video began to take on a life of its own. Comments flooded in, outrage, support, personal stories from people who had faced the same kind of treatment. Within hours, #NotAtOurTable was trending, and the name of the restaurant was plastered across headlines. The next morning, Will woke to a flood of notifications. His post had struck a nerve. Celebrities, activists, and everyday people had rallied behind him. Some shared their own experiences with discrimination, while others called for a full boycott of Eminence Dining. The restaurant scrambled to respond, releasing a vague statement apologizing for any misunderstandings. But the damage was already done. This wasn't just another viral controversy. This was a movement. Will scrolled through the endless stream of responses, feeling something he hadn't expected, resolve. This wasn't just about one night. This was about all the nights. All the people who had been dismissed, disrespected, made to feel like they didn't belong. This wasn't just personal. It was bigger than that. His phone buzzed. Jason. Man, have you seen what's happening? Jason's voice crackled with energy. They're scrambling. This could be huge. Will leaned back in his chair, a small smile playing on his lips. It's not about them scrambling, he said. It's about making sure this doesn't happen again. Jason paused. So, what's the plan? Will's smile faded as his expression turned serious. We build something better. A table where everyone's welcome. And we make sure the whole world knows about it. The fire in Jason's voice was unmistakable. I'm in. Whatever you need. Will hung up, the wheels in his mind already turning. This wasn't about proving a point. It was about building something that would outlast one night of indignity. And he knew exactly where to start. The next morning, the air in LA felt different. The soft sunlight filtering through the windows did little to lift the weight of the moment. Will sat at his kitchen table, staring at his phone as notifications poured in. He had expected a response. But this was something else. Millions of views. Thousands of shares. A tidal wave of voices refusing to be ignored. Jaden walked into the kitchen, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He caught a glimpse of his father's phone and raised an eyebrow. Whoa. Dad, you're trending. And not just in the usual way. Will exhaled, a weary smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Yeah, seems like people are listening. Jaden pulled out a chair and sat down, scrolling through his own feed. People aren't just listening. They're pissed. I mean, really pissed. Have you seen what they're saying about Eminence dining? Will nodded. He had spent the early hours of the morning reading the comments. Story after story, people sharing their own experiences of being turned away, ignored, made to feel like they weren't worthy of a seat at the table. The floodgates had opened. Tina's post had amplified the outrage, her words raw, unfiltered, calling out the hypocrisy of a system that claimed to embrace diversity while actively shutting people out. Jason, never one to stay quiet, had gone on a full-scale crusade, reposting every story, every comment, tagging every major voice in the industry. The momentum was undeniable. Will's phone buzzed again. Jason. He answered immediately, hearing the excitement in his friend's voice. Will, man. Have you seen this? Hashtag not at our table is everywhere. Journalists are calling. People want interviews. It's insane. Will leaned back, glancing at Jaden, who was now deep in his own scrolling. Yeah, he said. It's bigger than I thought it would be. Jason's voice was urgent. This is our moment. We can't let it die down. People are ready to listen. We need to do something. Will sighed, running a hand over his face. He knew Jason was right. This wasn't just about them anymore. This was about everyone who had ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. Like they weren't good enough. Like their presence was an inconvenience. What are you thinking? Will asked, his voice measured. Jason hesitated. I don't know yet. Maybe a protest? A rally? Will shook his head. No. A beat of silence. Not a protest. This isn't just about anger. It's about showing people that we deserve better. We need to build something that lasts. There was a pause on the other end. Then Jason's voice, softer this time. You're right. You're always thinking a step ahead. Will smiled slightly. It's not about being ahead. It's about making sure we take the right step. Jason exhaled. So what's the move? Will's gaze drifted toward the window, his mind already piecing together the blueprint of something bigger. Something undeniable. Something that couldn't be ignored. I've got an idea, he said. But I need some time to work it out. I'll call you back. He hung up, sitting in the silence for a moment. The weight of it all pressed down, but instead of exhaustion, he felt something else. Purpose. Jaden, still seated across from him, studied his father's face. You're really gonna do something, aren't you? Will met his son's gaze. Yeah, Jay. I am, his eyebrows. Yeah, Dad? Will set his coffee down, his gaze steady. Do you realize what we're about to do? Jaden chewed thoughtfully for a second before nodding. Yeah, we're about to show them how it's done. Will chuckled, but his eyes were filled with something deeper, purpose. Not just that. We're about to change the way people see us. The way they see themselves. The way they see the world. Jaden put his phone down, leaning forward. Then let's make it happen. Will nodded, the fire in his chest burning brighter than ever. Let's do it. The momentum only grew. By midday, hashtag not at our table wasn't just trending, it was dominating conversations everywhere. News anchors debated the issue of discrimination in high-end spaces. Talk shows brought on guests to discuss their own experiences of being excluded. Eminence Dining's PR team scrambled to control the damage, but every half-hearted statement only fueled the fire. And in the midst of it all, Will's phone was blowing up. Tina called first. "Will, this is getting bigger than we ever imagined. We have to move fast." "We will," Will assured her. "We're not just reacting to them anymore. We're building something better." By the afternoon, he had calls lined up with some of the biggest names in the city: chefs, musicians, artists, community leaders, all of them eager to be part of something real. This wasn't just about a dinner anymore. This was a movement. Jason called, practically buzzing with excitement. "Will, man. I just got off the phone with 3 different investors. They want in. This thing is going to be huge." Will smiled, running a hand over the words he had written in his notebook that morning. The table for all. It was no longer just an idea, it was happening. By the time evening rolled around, Will sat back in his chair, exhausted but electrified. The pieces were falling into place. Venues were being secured. Menus were being designed. Artists were committing to creating something truly unforgettable. Jaden walked into the living room, taking in the organized chaos spread across the coffee table: papers, notes, schedules, sketches. "This is really happening, huh?" Will looked up at his son, his expression serious. "Yeah, Jay. It is. And it's going to be bigger than any of us imagined." Jaden hesitated for a second before stepping forward. "Then I want in. Not just as your son. I want to help." Will studied him for a moment before reaching out and pulling him into a quick hug. "I'm gonna need all the help I can get. Because this wasn't just about one night. This was about changing the game. For everyone." The moment that sparked a movement. Jaden sat at the kitchen table, casually scrolling through his phone, still waking up from the morning haze. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, mingling with the distant sound of the city outside. He hadn't noticed Will watching him, deep in thought, until his father finally spoke. "Yeah, Dad?" He looked up, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Will tapped his pen on the open notebook in front of him, words and ideas scribbled across the page. His expression was serious but filled with excitement, a quiet determination that Jaden recognized well. "Remember what we talked about? Not just an event, but something bigger?" Jaden straightened up, setting his phone aside. His father had been on a mission ever since that night at Eminence Dining. He wasn't just upset, he was driven. Jaden had seen that look before, the same one his father had when preparing for a big role, except this time, it wasn't about Hollywood. This was personal. "You mean a movement?" Jaden's eyes lit up as the realization sank in. Will nodded, the corner of his mouth lifting in a small, knowing smile. A space where everyone is welcome, a celebration of culture, talent, and community. No more closed doors. Jaden leaned forward, his excitement growing. "That's awesome. How can I help?" Will chuckled, proud of his son's eagerness. "We need all the attention we can get. And you, my son, are a social media genius." Jaden's grin was instant. "Consider it done." Mobilizing the movement. That day, Will wasted no time. The moment the idea had solidified in his mind, he knew exactly who to call first. Tina answered on the second ring, her voice already filled with anticipation. "Tell me we're doing this." Will laughed. He should have known she'd be ahead of him. "We are. But not just as a response, we're building something permanent." For the first time in the conversation, Tina's tone softened, emotion breaking through her usual fire. "Will, this is beautiful. You know I'm in." Next, we'll call Jason. He barely had a chance to say hello before Jason cut in. "Tell me we're lighting a fire under these people." Will exhaled, his grip tightening on the phone. "We are. But not with anger. With action. With something they can't ignore. Jason was silent for a beat before responding, his voice more serious now. This isn't about one night. It's about proving we belong. I'm all in. Over the next few days, momentum exploded. Will and his team reached out to chefs, artists, and musicians, people whose talents had often been overlooked, voices that had been stifled. But now, they were front and center. Social media caught fire. Hashtag Not At Our Table wasn't just trending, it was everywhere. People shared their own experiences, their frustrations, their hope. What had started as a small act of defiance was turning into something much, much bigger. The night before, the venue, a converted warehouse in downtown LA, was nearly ready. The tables were set, string lights hung from the rafters, and the scent of spices and slow-roasting meats filled the air as chefs prepared their dishes. It was raw, real, and exactly what Will had envisioned. As the final details were coming together, Will took a quiet moment for himself. He sat in the dimly lit space, letting the weight of everything sink in. This was more than an event. This was a statement. Jaden walked in, noticing his father lost in thought. He placed a hand on Will's shoulder. "You good, Dad?" Will looked up at his son, pride shining in his eyes. "I'm ready." The night that changed everything. From the moment the doors opened, the energy in the room was electric. The warehouse buzzed with conversation, laughter, and the rhythmic beats of live music. People from all walks of life, families, activists, artists, and leaders, gathered to celebrate what others had tried to exclude. Tina found Will in the crowd, her eyes shining with pride. She squeezed his hand. "They tried to keep us out. Now look at us." Will smiled, taking in the scene. "We built our own table." As the night wound down, Will stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand. The crowd quieted, all eyes on him. He took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. "This isn't just about food or music. It's about proving that we belong. That no one can tell us otherwise. This is our table. A table for all." The room erupted into thunderous applause. A movement takes hold. What began as one night became a national movement. Cities across the country started hosting their own table for all events. Communities that had been pushed aside were now creating spaces where they belonged. Meanwhile, Eminence Dining crumbled under public backlash. Their carefully crafted image of exclusivity collapsed as the truth about their practices came to light. One evening, Will and Jason stood outside the now empty building that once denied them entry. The sign was still there, but the lights inside were dark. Jason smirked. "They tried to keep us out. Now there's nothing left to keep anyone out of." Will nodded. "But this was never about them. It's about what we build next. The legacy of the Table for All." Months later, the Table for All became an annual event, a tradition that spanned across the country. One night, Will stood before a packed venue, looking out at the faces of those who once felt excluded, now celebrating, belonging, thriving. He took a deep breath and smiled. "A year ago, they told us we didn't belong. So, we built our own space. And this is just the beginning." The applause was deafening. This was no longer just a response. It was a promise for the future. And they were just getting started. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and share. More inspiring stories coming soon.